Welcome to Let's Play Gran Turismo 3, episode 62. Alright, so, 2 areas of arcade mode are complete, and officially we can now move on to Area C. And so the courses we are going to are Swiss Alps Reverse, Trial Mountain Reverse, Deep Forest, Special Stage Route 5, Seattle, and Test Course. And so, another rally track to start off with, and as for the car I'm going to use for this, well, I'm torn between using the Peugeot and the Focus, and well, I think for this one, I'm going to use... yeah, let's use the Peugeot. Just because I feel like it. Oh, yeah, I forgot how quickly it loads up on a different system in comparison to a PS2. I forgot how quickly these races load up. Yeah, sorry about that, I was caught off guard there for a moment. And at the moment I have not taken the lead away from my opponent in this event, which is the Evo 7. And it makes a little bit of contact, but I'm going to suspect that since we are going over these jumps, or at least one of them was a jump we went over because I was pretty sure I had some air. And the Evo 7 definitely getting aggressive here at the moment. He's not wanting me to take the lead, but surprisingly I do manage to take the lead anyway. Well, unsurprisingly I should probably say. As I now lead by 1.2 seconds. And this is probably where I will manage to dominate, presumably, the rest of the race. So 1.6 seconds is now the margin as we come up to the end of the first lap here with Swiss Alps Reverse. And to those of you who are asking what Swiss Alps is meant to be overall, I think it's meant to be a conjunction and combination of both Smoky Mountain South and Green Forest Roadway, which were 2 dirt tracks that featured in Gran Turismo 2, and I'm pretty certain that's what this circuit is meant to be. It's meant to be basically a combination of both of those circuits, from what I can make out. But dependent on knowing if that's the case or not, that remains to be seen. Essentially. I've also got pins and needles in my right foot. But it's fine because I'm wearing trainers whilst I'm recording this. So, gap is not increasing too much at the moment, as of which the gap is only 1.8 seconds to the Evo 7. So, I'm not building up too much of a lead at the moment. The Evo 7 is managing to keep up pretty close at the present time. I am not extending by too much, as Mike is not just letting me run away with this, but no, I am slowly starting to run away with this race. And also furthermore, this course has an outside fence. Basically has fences on both sides, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a fence. So, 2.8 seconds is now the gap, and where I would imagine that interval is only going to continue extending from here onwards to the end of the race, because, well, I can dominate. On the rally tracks in arcade mode, and coincidentally in some cases that is precisely what I'm doing at the moment. Unsurprisingly up to this point. So 3.4 seconds is now the interval, and I think it's pretty much safe to say that the interval is only going to gradually increase as I go further and further onwards into this event, and officially getting a jump there, since this is the reverse course, and the margin is now 4 seconds to the Evo 7, so I think it's fair to say from here, as long as I don't make any major mistakes on the final lap, I am probably going to win this. And as I say that, I now set a PB by 7 tenths. So 4.5 seconds the margin at the end of lap 3, as we now start the last lap here at Swiss Alps Reverse. And I think it's fair to say that on a course which is basically a combination of Smoky Mountain South and Green Forest roadway from Gran Turismo 2, I think it's fair to say that my win streak before test course will probably continue. Although fortunately, however, I do have a plan for test course. But dependent on knowing if that plan will come into fruition or not, that remains to be seen. But I am willing to give it a test, if that's what it takes. As I now head through Sector 3 and get a nice tight entry there through the left-hander because it's the reverse course, and through the final corner we go now, and there we go. So, perfection, my name is Jordan. And in the end, I won the event by 6 seconds. So, not as much of a domination run as it was on the previous rally tracks, but again, still pretty close overall in comparison to the other in comparison to the other dirt tracks I've raced on so far. And let's move onwards to race number 2. Where we are going to try the mountain reverse. And where officially I think I'm gonna go to... yeah, let's go to Class C. And the car I'm gonna use, well, I want to use the Master. And as for the colour, well, yeah, let's use Crystal Blue. And obviously, I'm not going to use the drift setup because obviously that will just be the perfect opportunity I need to lose the race. And obviously, that's one thing I ain't wanted to happen. So I am using the MX-5 for this event because I want to, and officially I am already moving my way up through the field as I am on the outside of the Honda CRX, and we make contact. I am running very wide there, pretty much running onto the grass there as I was trying to see if I could make the corner. Evidently, however, I was unsuccessful, and officially I now take the lead away from the Honda CRX Del Sol as we now head through the third hairpin now for the first time and down the back stretch. Where it's basically just a matter of me trying to hold on to the lead. Up to this point. So 2.6 seconds is now the interval, and where I'm pretty certain from here I will basically be able to do what I have been doing, and that's primarily taking the lead and then just basically dominating over the rest of the field by storm, essentially. And, oh fuck. Yeah, I was definitely airborne there. There was no way I was going to avoid the outside concrete once I got airborne. Considering that is quite a steep slope there on the exit of the chicane, or at least on the entry when it comes to the normal course. So, I think it's fair to say up to this point, domination will pretty much be guaranteed, because I already have quite a margin to these guys at the moment, and at the moment the Mazda MX-5s are leading this race both first and second, and making contacts there with the outside wall, and almost hitting the rocks. Fortunately, however, I did not, and officially heading through the final tunnel now, and up of course to the right-hander, and we now pretty much have 3 laps to go in this race. So through the first chicane, and shifting down to 4th so I do not make the same mistake I made previously, and through the first right-hander we go on the reverse course, and the Mazda is currently engaged in a fight with what I think is the Toyota MR2 at the present time. Where I'm pretty certain from here I will probably manage to hold on for an easy dub, is what he thinks. So 3.6 seconds, now the interval to my fellow MX-5, as of which the fellow MX-5 is the red MX-5, and heading up of course to the left-hander now, pretty much a 90 degree turn before the hairpin in the tunnel, as of which this hairpin is also a tunnel for your information, FYI. And officially I have a feeling that tells me I'm probably going to lead this race, presumably up to the end. And I also set a new best lap time. So 2.3 seconds, the interval. And there is quite a battle going on between the MR2 and the MX-5 for second. They are definitely doing their best, fighting for positions at the moment. Meanwhile, I am still continuing to lead in my crystal blue MX-5, or in other words, my cyan MX-5, because obviously I've not driven this car yet, and officially it does now look like I will probably hold on to my lead for presumably the rest of the race, as we now head through the first tunnel now on the back stretch, once again now for the 4th time. Through the 2nd tunnel we go, and then we follow this up with the 3rd tunnel. After we have gone through these left-handers. So heading into the hairpin now we go. I would say I probably have enough of an interval to hold on to the lead, as of which I am pretty much 3.7 seconds clear from my fellow MX-5, and where I'm pretty certain I will manage to probably hold on to the lead. Anyways, final lap. And the AI do seem to successfully close that margin through the final sector, so they must be quicker than me through the final sector if they're closing in that much of an interval. Although, fortunately, however, I am pretty much out in front by enough of a margin to probably win this race, as long as I do not screw this up. Which could happen, but I'm hoping it doesn't. And I am hoping that subconsciously I do not screw this up, because I'm very much like Kyle Busch in this instance. I want to keep my win streak alive. At least in terms of actually keeping my arcade mode streak alive at the present time before test course. Because I'm pretty certain I'll probably lose on my first attempt at test course, because of how much I hate the circuit, and that is a wall. I should not have done that. And, oh, fuck me. Yep, okay, they're catching up now. I seriously fucked up. That section there, when I touched the rocks, I should not have done that. Although it doesn't matter, because I'm still going to win this race anyway, by a close margin, in spite of my last minute mistakes. I still won by 1.5 seconds in the end. So they were definitely catching up in those closing stages. So won by 1.5 seconds in the end over my fellow MX-5, then it was the MR2 in 3rd, followed by the Honda CRX Del Sol, then it was the Turismo in 5th, and then at the back it was the Daihatsu. So, 2 races down, and officially I am going to save my replay here, because I do not have a lot of clickbait at Try Mountain Reverse. So figure it's probably suitable for me to save the replay, because it makes sense, and let's now move onwards to Deep Forest. And where I think for these next 2 races I'm going to do Class S. However, I'm also going to use the GT300 cars, so for the first race I'm going to use the Toyota Super Autobacks, and for the second race I'm going to use the Silvia. Why? Because I need to. Also because, well, we're basically competing against rally cars. Suffice to say, I could very well win this, if I do everything properly, and as I suspected, I have a twin sibling in this race, and the Corolla forces me onto the grass. Guess who is surprised? Not me. So we have some rally cars in this event, but we also have the other GT300 cars in this event, even though it is mainly the Toyota Super Autobacks that is in this race with me. Meanwhile, the Silvia at the moment is still currently stuck behind the Impreza. at the present time. And meanwhile, I have now just taken the lead. So, not quite as powerful as the GT500 cars, but still, you know, powerful enough to give me somewhat of an interval. Pretty much looking like I will probably continue to extend my lead as the race goes on, considering that is basically what has been happening throughout most of these races in arcade mode. I basically take the lead and then I just decimate the rest of the field pretty much up to the end of the race, basically. Alright, so 2.8 seconds, the margin, after one lap, well, 1.5 laps here at Deep Forest, and where all I can really do now is just try my best to hold on to the lead. So 2.6 seconds now the margin, as we are up to the end of lap number 2. And where I can pretty much say positions by now have probably been stabilised. The Sylvia has now taken the third position away from the Impreza, and the rally cars, I would imagine, are probably going to stay at the back, and I just hit the outside slope. There is a slope on the outside. Anyways, domination continuing here at Deep Forest, as I am just pretty much running away with this one. And I cut the final corner, should not have done that, even though I started on the line. So 3 seconds now the interval at the end of the third lap, and got a little bit loose there on the curbs. Probably shouldn't have used those, because I got oversteer, and hopefully this lap will go better than the previous lap did. So yeah, so pretty much like every other circuit, there are certain areas where I'm stronger than the AI, and there are certain areas where the AI are stronger than me, basically. Is what I am strictly speaking of. Final lap, and that lap did not go much better. It actually went worse because of how I fucked up the first corner. Although it doesn't matter too much because I'm still leading by a tearaway anyway, so it really doesn't affect me too much. By proxy of how much I'm just dominating this thing at the moment, so 3.5 seconds now, the gap to the twin sibling in this event to me, of which he too is also driving an MR2 Super Autobacks, or Superstar Autobacks, I should probably say. And I'm pretty much leading by a third of 10 seconds, basically. 3.333 for that sector. And there we go. I win! By pretty much 3.6 seconds over the other Super Autobacks, Apex MRS. Then there was the Silvia in third, followed by the Impreza. The 206 was fifth, and then at the back it was the Corolla. So, pretty close race overall with the AI, even though obviously I did eventually extend myself to enough of a winning margin by proxy. Alright, so let's move onwards to race number 4, which takes place at Route 5. And where the car I'm going to use for this as well, I want to use the... yeah, let's use the Silvia. No, wait. Already used the Denso Star Supra. Gonna save the NSX until later. Yeah, let's use the Spoon S2000 instead. I'm just I do apologise if my plastic cup touched the microphone. I needed a drink. And oddly enough, I did not get as much wheel spin as I thought I was going to get off the start here at Route 5. But I did, of course, decide I wanted to use the Spoon S2000 for this very event. And oddly enough, we also have the Clio Cup car in this event as well, which is quite ironic, considering it's only really the over 290 horsepower cars that are officially competing in this event. And surprise, surprise, the Toyota is leading in this event. I might have a challenge on my hands. At least for probably the first 3 laps of this race, I would imagine I'm going to be facing up to quite a challenge. Because I don't think this car officially competed in the GT300 class. Oh, that's a wall. And oddly enough, the Evo 6 is actually helping me at the moment, because in spite of me making that mistake, I am managing to at least pose a threat to the Clio, from what I can see at the moment. And the gap is now 4 seconds at the end of lap 1, so I've really got to get a move on. Oh, that's a wall. Did not mean to drag the outside wall, but had to get aggressive there if I was going to move up into 3rd position. So all we have to contend with now is the MRS and the Silvia. And can I manage to do both of them? We shall wait and see. But I'm going to try, damn it. Because if there is any hope in the world of me going for the lead in this race, then obviously I will do that. Just trying to keep it clean, of course, which is the way I want to do it. So I am closing in on the leaders now, as a result of me taking 3rd position. Gap is now down to 2.8 seconds, compared to it being 4 seconds on the previous lap, so I can definitely be a contender for the race win up to this point, considering this is now pretty much a challenge to me, as I am in this race, and the Evo 6 is looking quick, and obviously I throw the block because I know very well he will only pass me temporarily, so a little bit of a rub there on the right rear fender, but fortunately I am able to keep up with the GT300 cars through the corners, even though obviously this is just a tuned race car model from what I can make out. As we are now onto the 3rd lap, I am hoping that I do manage to close in on the leaders eventually. And the Silvia is trying to make a bid for the lead, and he has done it. The Silvia has taken the leading position away from the Toyota, and I think I'm pretty much cleared of both the Clio and the Evo 6 by now, so hopefully now I can maybe challenge for the lead. As of which the gap is now down to 2 seconds, and almost grazed the outside wall there, like I did on the first lap, but I'm definitely being challenged at the moment, and it's going to be one hell of a task trying to fend off from both of these guys by the time we get to the end of this race. So, lap 4 now. The AI appear to be quicker than me down the straights, but I'm able to close in as we get through the corners. I'm sure I shifted to 4th gear a little bit too early there as I was through the corner, but fortunately I'm on the inside. I managed to take hold of the 2nd position. This is definitely the most challenging race I have faced so far in arcade mode. Hoping to maybe see if I can keep my winning streak alive. This could very well be where the race is decided. So, not enough of a margin to challenge for the lead at the present time, but obviously I will be trying my best to see if I can challenge for the lead at least before the end of the race. But the GT300 cars, they are clearly proving why exactly they are more superior than me through the straights. Even though I, of course, appear to be quicker through the corners, and that's exactly what's keeping me in this fight. So this could very well be a fight that could easily go all the way down to the wire. I'm definitely in the challenging position. Again, colliding with the outside wall, pretty much the chevrons as we head through the tunnel, and oh shit, had to be really brave there to make the dive work, but fortunately I pulled off the dive and I now take the lead. So had to be really aggressive to pull off the dive bomb there, but fortunately I did manage to pull it off before I got to the corner, and all I have to do now is stay in the defense position. So he tries to make me slide, but I managed to get enough of the traction to stay stable. The Silvia does now take the lead away from me once again. Contact is made as we head through the chicane. Had to literally slam on the brakes as I went through the chicane, or else I wouldn't have avoided the wall, and I am now up into the lead once again. What I need to do now is fend off both of these guys, and then the race win is mine. And the Toyota gives me a nudge. Is it going to be enough? Yes, it will. Jesus Christ, I had to work for that one. I did not think I was going to win on my first attempt, let me tell you. Son of a bitch, that was hard. I won by just under a tenth over both the GT300 cars. They were literally 2 seconds clear of the Clio. And then it was basically the Evo 6 ahead of the Subaru. But anyways, 4 races down and still 2 to go. Will I manage to successfully clear both of them? We shall wait and find out. Even though I would imagine test course is going to be a bit more of a challenge. However, since we are not at test course yet, we are going to Seattle next, and for this one I'm going to use the Subaru. And then I also need another drink, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Just had to have a drink there, and already I am up into the 4th position. And one thing I've noticed with this car is that, well, in comparison to the others, this one is actually pretty quiet. In terms of its engine, it's actually pretty quiet at the moment. And now I can actually hear it since I've cleared the rest of the field and had a little twitch of oversteer there. Because obviously oversteer can still happen even with 4-wheel drive cars. Diving down the inside to make the corner, and officially I'm now up into the lead for the first time. And I can actually hear the car now for the first time to see what it really sounds like. Even though this car, like the Chevrolet Camaro SS, is actually pretty quiet in terms of its engine noise. Probably because it's only a 4-valve. Could be that. Either that or it could be something else, is what me thinks. But at the moment, I am leading this thing by 1.7 seconds. I barely managed to keep my win streak alive before heading into this event, and officially, after 1 lap, I'm now 2.8 seconds clear of the R33. Imagine, in spite of literally knowing how quiet this engine really is compared to the other ones I've used, I'm pretty confident to say the least in knowing that I probably will be able to win this. Considering I have already decided on which car I'm going to use for test course, because I have a feeling it will probably have literally that much of an advantage, is what me thinks. In terms of straight line speed. So, I do apologise to those of you who might not be able to hear the engine, but obviously this engine, in comparison to all the others, is actually pretty quiet. Probably because it's only really a 4-stroke boxer engine. Although that's probably just my opinion of what I ultimately think it is. Anyways, 2 laps are down and still 3 laps to go. So, gap at the moment, virtually 4 seconds now to the skyline, and I think it's fair to say up to this point I probably will win this race with relative ease, as like I'm pretty certain there will probably not be any challenges. Throughout the remainder of this race. And it is now the Honda NSX that takes second position away from the skyline. Alright, so lap 4. As we now have just 2 laps to go. And then officially after this we will have just 1 course left, and that course is basically the course I hate the most. Test course. Literally the one course in this game that I probably hate the most. Although I am pretty certain it probably is doable for me to actually win a test course. And I think I know precisely which car it is I want to use as well. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this is probably a 4-stroke Boxer engine, methinks. This car has. I mean, I will have to do the research, but I'm pretty sure it's a 4-stroke Boxer, but I'm pretty sure it is a 4-stroke Boxer engine this car has, is what me thinks. But again, like I said, I will have to check to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's a 4-stroke Boxer engine, and I think I'll just conclude it there. So it doesn't look like the NSX is closing in by too much at the moment. And I'm pretty certain that I probably will manage to win this race with relative ease as we now start the final lap here at Seattle. So again, more or less proving to be the case in this race like it has been with all the others. And that case is, in terms of the jurisdiction, is that ultimately there are certain parts of the circuit where I'm quicker than the AI, and certain parts where the AI are quicker than me. And that is a wall I just made contact with. Meanwhile, the NSX is closing in, although I am hoping that I do manage to hold on to the race win before this race is out, and contact there with the outside wall, and fortunately this time not colliding with the chevrons, where I am officially holding on to pretty much a steady lead at the moment, as I now head through the 90-degree right-hander before the bus stop section, which is basically these two chicanes here. The NSX has definitely closed in, but I'm hopeful in saying that he will manage to stay behind me as we head through the final sequence of corners. The NSX really closing in on the final lap once again, as we now head through the chicane, and it looks like I am going to hold on for the race victory. By 2.8 seconds over the NSX, because he really came on strong in that final lap. So then it was the Skyline in third, followed by the Corvette in fourth, then it was the RX-8 in fifth, and then at the back it was the other Impreza. Anyways, one race left, and that is test course. And as for the car I'm going to use, well, I'm going to use a four-wheel drive car. So let's head over to the shitty oval once again, and where I'm pretty certain 5 laps of this are just going to be torture. Which is why I'm choosing... let's see, I have it in here. Oh, guess I don't. But I am going to choose though as well. I want to choose the NSX. So that's what I'm going to choose. I choose the Honda NSX. And we get quite a lot of colours here. Yeah, sure, let's use this thing in red, and we'll just see what happens. Hopefully I will have enough speed to win the race, even though obviously I'm not anticipating this will be an easy win. But I'm hopeful in saying I will have enough speed to win the race overall. Considering obviously I have seen what this car is capable of in a straight line, I'm hopeful in saying it will be competitive enough to compete with the Subaru, and already the Evo 4 has hit his top speed. And the Skyline does not look like he has got that much acceleration neither. I'm now closing in on the Honda NSX. We both have the speed. I'm going down the inside, whilst the other one is going around the outside. And this is pretty much the way this race is going to look. As of which, yes, I am keeping it in 5th gear until we get off the corner, because that is when the constant struggling will start. And also it will purely be down to drafting to see who will officially win. Although one car that I know for sure is certainly not going to win over this is the Evo 4, because he has a low top speed, and the only reason why I was able to beat him, and the only reason why I was able to win with that car at test course in, what was it, the beginner race of Turbo Sports, effectively that was only because... Effectively the only reason for that was simply because I had a racing transmission installed before I did the race itself, because if I didn't do that then I would have probably lost for sure. This is probably going to be a true test of speed, because I thought about using the Chevrolet Camaro, but obviously, judging by the stats of what this car has, I ultimately decided it was probably better if I used this one instead, so that's exactly what I'm sticking to. Even though obviously the next probably 4 laps of this race are just going to be annoying. And as I also discovered from the professional race of Turbo Sports, there are quite a few cars who had a reasonable amount of speed. So positions are just going to keep constantly changing. Although the only thing I'm really trying to do at the moment is just hold on to the lead, and at the moment I'm doing that unsuccessfully. Because these AI are definitely stronger on the test course than me. And the lead is pretty much going to keep constantly changing hands. Like you would probably see at super speedway circuits, such as either Daytona or Talladega, because that's essentially what I think this course probably reminds me of. An extended version of the Talladega Super Speedway, and with it also being the same shape as the Dover International Speedway. And all I'm really trying to do is just hold on to the fight for the lead. As of which the Corvette is also getting himself involved in this fight. The NSX will probably give me a bump draft once he gets the slipstream. Indeed he does. And don't think I can slot in behind the Corvette. Of course there's no room for using the brakes on these high banks, because if you do, then basically your race is done if you use the brakes up to this point. This is definitely quite a battle I'm currently involved in, as I'm running on the Richard Petty line, which in other words is the high line. And I would imagine by the time I'm done with this race, I will probably be seriously dehydrated, because I only have a few subs and moments left. Oh shit! I hit the wall, but somehow, because I was aggressive, I managed to defend the lead. And here comes the Corvette once again. So the Corvette must be largely involved in this fight. He is not willing to give up without a fight, from what I can make out. We're basically going at like probably 160, 170 miles an hour on these high banks, as we are literally just constantly bumping and tapping one another to try and defend our positions. The Subaru is also coming back into the battle. Had to get really aggressive there with my fellow Honda to hold on to the lead. He is not willing to give in the fight neither. It is very much a 3-horse race at the moment here at Test Course. Doesn't look like the Impreza is going to close in enough. And all I'm really doing at the moment is trying to hold on to my advantage. Even though I'm pretty certain that either the Corvette or the other NSX will make a bid for the lead. Because this is basically what pack racing is like. You're basically just constantly battling for the lead. And also furthermore, slipstreaming is powerful in this game. Fortunately he did not do that on the final lap, because if he did, then well, I would have probably been worried. Even though I'm pretty certain that probably will happen before this race is done. And now you can officially see why I hate Test Course. God, this track is so boring. Also, they are drafting. They're pretty much drafting double file there. They're partners as we head up through the high banks once again on the 4th lap. This race is basically happening so fast I almost feel like I cannot speak fast enough to say what the overall results are, but once this race is done I am probably never going to do this again. Even though I probably will play this game again, I just don't know if I will or won't. Want to race another 5 laps around test course using the Honda NSX. Because, well, pack racing most of the time is quite boring. And not just because of how boring the track is until somebody wrecks. Because that is pretty much when the carnage starts happening. Unfortunately, because we are not racing at a circuit as quick as Daytona or Talladega, we are fortunately not having too much of the carnage, because none of us have officially flinched and caused the big one yet. I have a feeling it's going to come down to a last-ditch effort, dependent on knowing if I will or won't win this race, because uncertainty up to this point has very much sunk into what I think could happen if I'm not fully motivated. Anyways, final lap, and we've basically been battling as a threesome pretty much all race long. I think the Impreza up to this point is probably too far behind in terms of speed, and it looks like it's going to come down to basically 2 Hondas and 1 Chevrolet at the end of this race. Hopefully I can win that race, but if I don't, then well, I will be pissed. I cannot slot myself into the slipstream. Tried to see if I could look for an opening, maybe see if I could catch a draft, but unfortunately I was unsuccessful. Still continuing to make relentless contact with both the Corvette Gran Sport and the fellow Honda NSX Type S 0, as we now head down the backstretch, through the tunnel now, hoping to hold on to the race lead and hopefully the race win as well. Even though victory is probably a lot more reduced now because I'm having to battle harder than I usually do. Because this is purely a track built for speed, and realistically I don't like that, where I'm basically just doing 4 laps of basically turning left, where I'm basically just doing 2 endless straights along with pretty much turning through 4 90-degree corners, turning left, basically. Considering that's basically what NASCAR does most of the time on the high-banked tracks. Can I hold on to the lead? So nobody's making a bid, but I just managed to hold on for the race win. Thank God. I am so glad that fucking race is over. And what do you know, the Evo 4 actually wasn't too far behind us. So maybe he wasn't constantly hitting the rev limiter whilst he was involved in that race, but still. Fucking hell, I had to work for that one. But there we go. I just managed to fend off from the Corvette and the other NSX here at Test Course. The Impreza finished in 4th ahead of the Skyline because he didn't have any tuning, and then at the back it was the Evo 4. Still, I am so relieved that race is over, and I was very fortunate to win that on my first attempt. So, at the end of that race, we are now 61.2% complete. So our completion ratio is continually climbing as we traddle along through arcade mode. Also FYI, we are now halfway through arcade mode, because we still have 3 more sections left to go before we are complete with arcade mode. Anyways, that was Area C in arcade mode, and next time we shall be doing Area D. Stay tuned.